One of the biggest concerns that new resellers face is the threat of being scammed. And what I want to do in this video is lay out some of the more common scams, and I want to help you defeat them before they ever get off the ground. So what I've done is I've broken the scams down into 5 common scams. And of those common scams, I'm going to tell you exactly what you can do to help lessen the threat of those. Now, before we dive into this, I do want to tell you, scammers won't end up being a big part of your business. I've shared it many, many times that my return percentage overall is less than 2% on eBay. And of that 2%, it's a very, very small portion that they weren't just returns. They didn't fit, or there's a legitimate reason that they wanted to return it. So the number of scammers that I deal with is exceptionally small. However, if you're new to eBay, you're going to see more of it because people are going to try and take advantage of you. Let's talk about the 5 most common scams that you're likely to see as a new reseller on eBay. The first one is a relatively new one. I don't remember this one from 20 years ago when I got started, and I certainly don't remember it from 10 years ago when I got started, and that is the fake payment. Let me tell you how this works. You get an offer or an auction ends and there's a successful bidder. Either right away or within that first day, you get a message from the buyer that says, hey, I've already paid for this. When are you going to ship? You haven't heard anything from eBay, but you start getting pressure almost immediately from the buyer. What is happening here is that the buyer hasn't paid anybody. They may even send you a picture that shows their payment went through, but it didn't go through eBay, or eBay will tell you it's time to ship. What happens is with this scam is they're new, they're worried, they want the buyer to be happy, they're probably excited about the sale. The customer's saying, I've already paid, when are you going to ship? And they ship that item off. And by the time the seller realizes that there was no payment made, this item is on its way to that person with virtually no way for you to get it stopped. It's a new scam, but it is really, really prevalent right now that somebody's going to tell you that they made a payment that they didn't make. And the good news is, this is super easy to stop. All you have to do, if somebody sends you a note that says, hey, I made payment, when are you going to ship? Your answer to that, while still professional, is I will ship it as soon as eBay lets me know that the payment has been received and it's time to ship it. Because that's how eBay works. You don't ship it until eBay tells you to. The way eBay payments work is whatever payment they used, it goes through the eBay managed payment system. And if eBay didn't get the money, you're not getting the money. So don't ship anything until eBay tells you it's time to ship. And that, what I think might be the most common scam going on right now, goes away. Let's move on to number 2. The next one I call the item not received scam. And the timing on it varies a little bit. Sometimes you'll sell an item and the next morning, as soon as you've shipped, you get a message from the buyer that says, I haven't received my item yet. I want my money back now. If you ship through the eBay system, which you should, it will automatically upload tracking information to eBay. You might have to go through and copy that tracking number down, and you respond to them and say, you bought it yesterday, I shipped it this morning, here's your tracking information, it's not due to you until such and such a date. Simple as that. If time has already passed, one of the things you might see when you look at that tracking number is you'll go in and look, and it shows that it's been delivered. But you've got an irate customer telling you, this item didn't show up. I don't care what that tracking number says. I didn't get it. 2 things. One, it's not impossible that they didn't get it, that their neighbor picked it up or it got lost along the way. If that tracking shows that the item was delivered, the carrier in that area had to have that product in their hand to scan it, which means it was right there. If it didn't get from right there at their mailbox to them, they need to talk to their local carrier. Here's what will happen on eBay. if somebody turns in an item not received, you need to respond, and you simply upload the tracking. And if the tracking shows that it was delivered, you're clear. There won't be another step for you to take on that. And if they were to leave negative feedback and say their item didn't get there, if you have tracking that shows that it did, you're done. You're free. You're clear. That scam won't work on you. The only time you get in trouble, there's a couple of things you can do that you need to be very careful of if you're a new seller. If somebody asks you to change an address after they've already purchased it, don't do that. It isn't that an honest person couldn't make that mistake, but it's one of the few things that could happen where eBay will say you didn't ship it to the address that we have on file. If it's something that's really, truly important, tell the buyer you can cancel the sale and they can purchase it with the correct address. But don't change that address yourself. And the other way is if you're buying your shipping labels through another, either through the post office directly or something like Pirate Ship, make absolutely sure that you upload that tracking information to that item number right away so that it shows where it went. I buy all of mine, or the vast majority of mine, right through eBay, and so that tracking number is automatic. All right, let's talk about number 3, the return fraud. And what this amounts to is a buyer will request a return, and they're going to tell you something was wrong, that it wasn't described, and they're going to force that return on you. And really what they're trying to do is to get you to give them a partial refund. They don't want to ship it back. They just want to get some of their money back, half of their money back, all of their money back. They're gambling on, especially with a new seller, that it's going to worry you enough that you've got a return that you're just going to agree to it and give them some money back. This one is fairly easy to protect yourself from. What you need to do if you get a customer like that, tell them, you know what? I'll take the return. Send it back to me. And once I get it back in the same condition that I sent it, then I will accept the return and refund your money, including shipping. Here's why you're doing that. Because when eBay sees that note in there, and you've offered this person a refund, it's going to do several things for you. One, if you get it back, it's really going to limit their ability to leave any negative feedback because you offered to make it whole. You offered to make it right. You are under no obligation of any kind to give anybody a partial refund or to send them anything. Don't do it, especially when you're new. Tell them to send the item back. And you'll take a look at it when you get it back to make sure it matches the pictures that you took. That type of return is one that you can guard yourself against by not sending people partial refunds. Don't give it to them cheaper. Send it back to you. If you know what that item's worth, you have them send that thing back and leave them without recourse. That's the way to handle that. And then the switching scam, number 4. Number 4 is where you bought it, you sold it, and they got it, and they say you didn't send it right, or you sent the wrong one, or it doesn't fit, or whatever. They're going to send it back to you, and when you get it back, it's a different item. They just straight up lied to you. Again, this really helps if when you take your first pictures, if they're serial numbers or identifying marks, anything that would distinguish yours from all the others that might look like it, include those in your pictures. If you have an expensive item, I will normally put in my description that I am going to videotape the packing and shipping process so that the buyer knows they're going to get exactly what's in these pictures. When you get a return for one of those, it's a terrific thing if there's any way for you to open that at the post office. I have a good relationship. I'm in a small post office, and if I get a return that leaves me questionable, they will let me open it right there on camera. And that does a lot of things for me. One, it gives me actual physical evidence that they didn't return what I sent. They have switched it out. And guess what? If I can prove that, that's postal fraud. That's going to go to the postal inspector. And if I file that report, when I go back home and I let eBay know, hey, I'm filing a complaint with the postal inspector, I'm reporting this problem to you, that they shipped me back a completely different item, It's much easier if you have something to give eBay to side with you. Because in those situations, they want to side with you. They don't want you to lose. eBay does not benefit from having scammers run amok. And if you give them a reason to side with you, they're going to. And it also absolutely eliminates the ability for that person to leave you negative feedback and have it stick. The next one is the easiest one to fix. It's the easiest one to solve. And a lot of times you will see this type of activity from buyers who have tried everything else. And that is feedback extortion, where a buyer says, this was broken, I want a discount, I want this much off, send me this much back, and if you don't, I'm going to give you negative feedback, or this is going to affect the feedback I leave. Any of those kind of things go directly against eBay's terms of service. And if they do that, they're going to lose. They are not going to be able to leave you feedback. So, believe it or not, the best thing you could ever read from an angry scammer is anything in their email that says, I'm threatening your feedback if you don't do this the way I want. Because the minute that they do that, you've won. And trust me, some of them will. Some of them will crawl out there and say something like that. And at that point, man, that's easy. I contact eBay immediately. I report the buyer, feedback extortion, and I get that solved. And for me, that has been solved in my favor 100% of the time. eBay doesn't tolerate that. Let me jump back to the beginning and remind you, you aren't going to deal with scammers all the time. I think you're going to get more of them when you first start, but they're going to lessen and lessen. And at some point, they're just not really something that you're going to see very often at all. I rarely deal with a scammer at this point. And the same thing's going to happen to you. They're going to go away. I want to tell you that it'll never happen, but I can't. I can't do that. I will tell you that it's a small percentage of the business, and if you do the things that we've talked about in this video, you can really lessen their ability to do damage to your business. Prepare yourself before they ever show up at your doorstep, and remove the welcome rug for them. They don't need it. I appreciate you watching. I've got more tutorials coming up, and I'm going to see you real soon on the next one. Bye.